Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies, Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties. And thanks to Copiers Plus for presenting Ovies and Giglio. You might not understand this. You might not know this. Unmanaged printers can eat into your profits, Joe. You don't want that. So what you want to do is contact Copiers Plus at copiers-plus.com, and you can get that consultation to understand where 90% of businesses do not manage printing expenses and track printing costs, and that's a really easy way to save money. It just starts with a consultation. Go to copiers-plus.com.
Do you know what you don't know? You don't know what you don't know. So
Wow.
seriously, the best thing to do is ask the people at Copiers Plus, hey, how can you help me save money? How's that going to hurt you? It's not. Copiers-plus.com.
That is the most football thing you've ever said.
Just for you, man.
Wow, I'm really impressed, man. I'm really impressed. Not as impressive as this clock, though. Look at that thing.
The clock is amazing.
Look at that thing.
Amazing.
So when we were in Greensboro for the Wyndham, I had stumbled across a Hardy's basketball from a 1991 ACC tournament. All right. And I just tweeted out, we used to be a conference, a proper conference, Joe. And a lot of people bringing back memories. I'm pretty sure if you're of a certain age, you had that basketball at some point. And one of our listeners said, yeah, but there's this, an OG from 1971 clock that still has South Carolina on it. And the representation
just under the
of the
deadline,
teams,
by the way, because it's from 1971, the year that they left.
Yes.
Like,
yes. The best part about this clock, though, is how many versions of NC State logos do you have? Like, you have the official seal. There's like an NSC,
which I've never, ever seen ever.
There's a strange, like, big bad wolf version of Mr. Wolf. There's the slobbering wolf playing basketball, but it's a basketball clock, but Ramses is wearing a football helmet. I'm really confused by this clock, but it's amazing, and I had to put it up today.
And you haven't even mentioned the best part, which is the South Carolina, the chicken. Colton Tudor, my mentor, used to call them the chickens. And I'm like, why do you call them the chicken? Well, now I see it.
Now you know why.
Now I see
they
it.
They look like chickens. Gotta love that. Gotta love that. Speaking of NC State, NC State seems to be the greasy wheel that needs to be greased with the big news of the day. There was a huge, I would say, historic lease agreement signed with the Centennial Authority with the Carolina Hurricanes and PNC Arena that affects NC State and the redevelopment of that area.
Okay.
And on today's show, we'll be talking to Tom Dundon. We'll be talking to Don Waddell. We hope to talk to Tom Dundon in the future, but we're talking to President General Manager Don Waddell a little bit later on about what this means and also their offseason. And Philip Isley, who's the chairman of the Centennial Authority. He's been with the board since 2011, but he's been the chair since 2021 and trying to land this plane that's been going on for a few years now.
And remember, for context purposes, the Centennial Authority was created because the arena was originally an NC State project, which was then needed Peter Kermanis' money to be finished. So you had these two entities. And so they created a third entity, the Centennial Authority, to basically make decisions on how to run the arena.
Throughout this entire process, there has been a lot of worrying, hand-wringing about parking.
Yes.
About tailgating.
Careful now with our constituents here.
I understand.
Don't make me rep.
I'm trying to be as gentle as possible when it comes to this. But I felt like there was a response from one of our listeners, Jim, who said, ready for this take about tailgating and parking to take its place next to pass outs and back to Reynolds in the discourse. And it made me wonder.
Diamond Jim, yeah.
It made me wonder, where does, I think the tailgating and the redevelopment of the area now goes onto the Mount Rushmore of NC State complaints. Like if we needed a summer topic to kill an hour and solicit tweets, maybe get some listener submissions via StreamYard, whatever, we could come up with a Mount Rushmore of area fan complaints. And if we were to do NC State first, back to Reynolds is certainly one of them. This happens all the time. There is the pass outs of the
halftime, Carter Finley Stadium.
Yep. And there's an argument for and against. There are people who say, hey, there's pass outs at other stadiums. It's not a problem. XYZ. Well, it's because they don't have enough facilities. They can't handle everybody. So that's why they have to go leave, all that stuff. Right. And there's for and against. Tailgating in all its forms would certainly take its place at the number 3 spot, because it's not just about what's happening at PNC Arena in the future. There's also the 5-hour tailgating rule that's been in place for
22 years now.
Has it been that long?
Yes.
Dude, I think I just got more grays. 22 years? Goodness, man. Goodness. Anyway, now that I got that shock, what would be fourth?
I think it's a hodgepodge, but I think it has to be Swofford controlled the ACC and the officials conspiring against NC State. It was a central theory out of Greensboro because Swofford was the former Carolina AD. So all like TA was in, all any kind of basketball Carl Hess thing would always go back to Swaff.
Okay.
So either that or you can go back one generation prior to that would have been they only sold as we've seen with Michigan lately with the cheeseburger argument. They only sold sneakers and tickets. The Valvano, the scandal, or the board of governors making their, getting their vengeance because they didn't want State to be as good as Carolina. God forbid. So there's a lot there.
So
or the N&O. You could go, they hated the N&O for a long time, all connected to the Valvano stuff.
Yeah. I would say Swofford would take.
I think it has to be. I think it has to be.
You're right. Swofford covers a lot. It covers a lot of ground. It really covers a lot of ground.
Brian Underwood. Yeah.
And it ties to the rest because the call came from Greensboro.
The call came from inside the house.
Yes.
No doubt.
From Sedgefield, whatever house it is on whatever green it is. That's where the call came from. Speaking of calls, last week, Roy Cooper, governor of North Carolina, wrote a letter to the NCAA in relation to Tez Walker, transfer wide receiver from Kent State. He's from North Carolina. He originally was not at Central first.
He was East Tennessee.
Yes, East Tennessee State. Didn't play there. He got injured, deferred enrollment, ended up at Central. Central doesn't play football because of COVID. He goes to Kent State. It's the only football team he actually played for. And then transferred to North Carolina to be closer to home. He's got family in Charlotte. Roy Cooper wrote this letter about the denial of the waiver. North Carolina is appealing this double transfer waiver. We've had our opinion on this. We feel it's kind of stupid. It shows you where the priorities are with the NCAA. And clearly, the NCAA has either not read the letter, chooses not to read the letter. They have not informed North Carolina in any way, shape, or form any updates when it comes to Tez Walker.
Well, they did respond.
Mac Brown had some press availability today. He says he hasn't heard from the NCAA in terms of an immediate waiver or an appeal.
I just meant they responded to their original ruling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They explained their original ruling that he's trying to transfer twice. That's what they're saying.
Which, again, we can get into the semantics of that. But they haven't heard back for any sort of waiver appeal. But my argument would be they're too busy releasing statements about cheeseburgers in relation to Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. The NCAA is a very curious place where it's a lot of say as we say, or do as we say, not as we do. Because the NCAA would absolutely bring the hammer to any institution that would publicly talk about something. And here they are, essentially responding to the internet. Because it's not like Michigan or Jim Harbaugh has made the cheeseburger impermissible benefit a thing. The internet did. It's like, it was just over cheeseburger. It's like the old Jim Larinaga when he was at George Mason. He was talking about cream cheese on bagels. Like you can bring the bagel, but you can't bring the cream cheese. And that's what the NCAA is concerned with. At some point, I would hope, as we're, a couple of weeks from the start of the season, we're less than 2 weeks away from week 0, that they get some information on Tez Walker, right? I mean, he's not going to go the entire season not playing, right?
You never really know with the NCAA. You would hope that they did. If there was an official appeal, that it was ruled on in a most timely fashion possible.
Brutal. Housekeeping. Not brutal are new t-shirts at breakingtea.com. Go to breakingtea.com/OG. It'll take you to the Ovies and Giglio collection. You will see 4 t-shirts. I'm actually wearing one of them right now. This is the Bad for Ratings t-shirt that we had back in the playoffs, right? We have the positive vibes only, 5 stars only. And then we have essentially defunct area teams for a defunct radio show. Ice Caps, Skyhawks, inspiration, if you will. So go buy those today.
Conference that while we're at it.
We could be cooking something.
Okay.
We could be cooking something on that. I'm very excited about that. So go check that out. Again, breakingtea.com/OG to get your t-shirts today. Shout out to everybody who has purchased t-shirts already and has informed me, especially our guy, Joe Wagstaff. He's like, hey, I just happen to have some cash in my Apple Cash. Happened to be the exact amount I needed for a t-shirt.
It's fate.
Boom. That's what this was meant for. I'm going to buy that t-shirt. Solarte even reached out to me. He's like, that Ice Caps one is sick. I was like, yo, they'll go buy one.
Get one.
Then go absolutely buy one. Also, check out Young Gun about BryceYoung, new podcast that's hosted by Dimitri Ravanos and Lauren Brownlow. It is focused on BryceYoung's rookie season. Plenty to get into from preseason game number 1. You weren't here on Monday.
As you say, you want me to unholster those takes now, or
put a pin in that.
Okay,
put a pin in that. We'll get into some. We'll get into some of those takes in a little bit, because they've got a whole bunch of it, and you can check it out wherever you get your podcast. Again, look up Young Gun, a BryceYoung podcast. It's also on our YouTube channel, and you can watch that there as well. Thanks to Whitaker and Hamer for sponsoring Ovies and Giglio, and My Hometown Realty, myhtr.com. Let's get to the bottom of the house thing first. Have we had any information? Have we sold a house? Have we bought a house yet?
I need to check in with Barry.
Okay, check in with
the house, about an update.
Let's make this happen.
But the truth of the matter is, you need a real estate agent. Don't go to Spain. Don't walk through any doors. Go get somebody who has local knowledge. You want local knowledge? 6 locations: Clayton, Garner, Raleigh, even down at Atlantic Beach. myhtr.com. They have more than 250 agents. Do you think you get 250 people on your payroll by accident? No, you have to be really good. You have to know what you're doing. Check them out, myhtr.com.
Also, Whitaker and Hamer, wh.lawyer. And
I feel like at this point, that's all we have to say, because they have the world's greatest URL. If they are smart enough to have the world's greatest URL, they're certainly smart enough to help you close on a house, sell a business, any kind of family law issues. Those are your guys. Joe Hamer, Josh Whitaker. They're going to take care of all of your legal needs.
I feel like we should send them the term sheet for PNC Arena between them
and
the Carolina Hurricanes, and see if there's anything that would raise an eyebrow. Just out of curiosity. That's something they can do. So again, check them out online at wh.lawyer. Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline, President, General Manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, Don Waddell. It finally happened. The lease agreement that I feel like we've been talking about for 10 some odd years has finally gone through. You got to be excited about moving forward now that this new lease agreement and development has been signed.
Yeah, we signed the term sheet, and now we have to get into the long form. But the major points have all been negotiated, and we're excited about it. As you said, there's been a lot of time and effort that's gone into this, and a lot of people doubting whether Tom Dundon wanted to stay in this market, and he's proven he's putting a lot of money into this deal, both on the renovations and on the development side. And I think it proves that we feel that Raleigh's become a great hockey market and can continue for the next 20 plus years.
You're not going to miss the Quebec rumors? You're not going to, Canadian media coming up with some sort of relocation drama? You're going to miss that?
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning. Every time Montreal comes to town, they always have that one guy that asks when we're going to be moving there. So that is off the table, which it was never on the table, by the way, because that's not the place I would pick anyways. But nothing against Quebec, but no, we're all good here.
So I am curious. I want to go back to May of 2022. And NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman has a visit. Obviously everything's leading up to the Stadium Series, and I feel like everything that I've read, everybody that I've talked to, kind of points to the commissioner being here as reigniting these conversations. So if you could take us back to that time, what exactly was the message? What was the conversation about this market and the future of this market?
Well, I think the commissioner obviously plays an important role in most teams when they're negotiating lease extensions and that, and wants to tell the CA in particular who we met with that he's committed to making Raleigh a great market, but we also are in a building at that time that was 22 years old that we need to take some steps to bring our building up to today's date. So I think the message was heard loud and clear, and we can say it all we want, but when it comes to the commissioner, I think it carries a lot more weight. So that started. I mean, we had been talking for the last year before that.
Yeah,
that took everything. Bill Isley took over as the chairman of the Centennial Authority, and he said, we got to go make this happen. And he's put a lot of time and effort to do that. So I can't thank him enough. But the commissioner, anytime the commissioner shows up in town, I think that's a positive thing.
You also have an owner that wants to do something with that area. I mean, I've lived here since 1995. I remember when the place was being built, and all of this land that was supposed to be for usage. My old high school moved there, Cardinal Gibbons, so that was an interesting turn of events. And it just kind of sat there for a long time. And I guess this goes back to 2018 when Tom Dundon takes over. And unlike Karmanos, wants to do something with that land finally. But you come to find out there's a lot of complications that go into developing that land. So I am curious, you've worked with Tom Dundon, the NHL franchise owner, but this is a guy who made a lot of money in development. So what about his development side are you excited about to see?
Well, Tom's got great vision. He's done projects mostly in Texas, as we know. He's done some other projects in Colorado and that. But, he has a vision. And, when Tom gets excited about something, that's good for all of us because that means he wants to get it done. And, the first thing was getting a commitment from the city and the county to $300 million for the renovation of the current building. That was number one, and getting our lease done, and then the development came hand in hand with that. So Tom's excited about it. This area is very fortunate to have Tom as an owner. When he took over the franchise, it wasn't in the best financial shape, and we've turned that around. Made playoffs the last 5 years. Won our division last 3 years, and Tom's put money up to give us the best chance at getting the best players possible. And I think that gets lost sometimes because he doesn't live here. Mm-hmm. But obviously, hopefully those remarks go away now that he's made the commitment for the next minimum of 20 plus years.
You say he gets excited about things. He wants to follow through on it. I feel the same way about the stadium series. When Giglio and I talked to him during that event back in February, he was adamant about bringing another one. He wants this more often. So it's not lost on me that in this new term sheet that there is plans for another outdoor game. Is this nebulous plans, or are there actual, get the wheels in motion for another stadium series event?
Yeah, no, the commissioner made a commitment that we would get one in the next 5 years, okay, give or take, depending on what happens. But so those talks, it's not going to happen in the next couple of years, nor do we want it to happen next couple of years. We need it takes a few years to organize it and get it going. But certainly what we did here at Carter Finley this past February, March, whenever it was outstanding. I mean, it showed, I think, everybody, not only in this area, but around the whole country, that Raleigh will support an NHL team and support it well. As you know, it's the fastest team to ever sell out their stadium series games. Mm-hmm. It was just a great event. I don't know if anything could have gone different for the event, and we're very pleased to be a part of it.
I think parking was the big thing that came out of that stadium series event. Not that parking isn't an issue necessarily on a night in, night out basis. And I guess that's another aspect of this that might get lost on things. There's a quality of life improvement that you guys want to make with PNC Arena. So what was the biggest sell or the biggest thing to overcome when it came to getting people on the same page to get people in and out of that area?
Yeah, we're working with DOT and the governor's office right now on ingress and degress. Really, there's only two ways into the building, because you can come in off Edwards Mill or Trinity, you still end up with the four-way stop sign, and the same thing coming in off Blue Ridge. So that's a big focus right now. There's going to be money allocated. We've done a traffic study. So that's going to be, you can do all you want on the property, but people can't get in and out. Right. You're going to lose interest pretty quickly. So lots of plans. Again, everything we're doing right now that we've done to date on the development, on the renovations, it's all a vision. Now we're at today where now that vision can start to turn into drawings and so forth, which will take some time to get to. But this was an important day to get through, getting the lease agreed to, and obviously getting the city county support on the hospitality tax to get the $300 million to renovate the current PNC Arena.
Don Waddell, President General Manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, joining us on the Heister Automotive Group Hotline. All right, let's get to some hockey. I didn't see anything in the term sheet about more defensemen. Was that in the term sheet? You got any more? Was that part of the announcement today?
I think we've got our surplus of defensemen now. I think we've got 5 right shots and 4 left shots. So hopefully we feel like we're going to be in good shape there. Hopefully some of those defensemen can play forward.
Yes. So I was curious about that. It's been a very active offseason, a very newsy offseason for you, whether it's the signing of Sebastian Aho to a long-term deal, something that you, Tom Dundon, everybody talked about making a priority. That's been knocked out. But you were also attached to some free agency. You were attached to some trades. there was a report that somebody was coming until there was a change in an agent. Then it wouldn't happen. You were tied to a guy that was supposed to come, but then didn't. So from your perspective, what is really happening behind the scenes versus what spills out onto social media or from NHL insiders trying to explain who could be going where?
Yeah, well, I think some of the players that were reported that they're coming here, we never had to deal with any of them. I mean, we were talking with the agents, and as you said, the one switched agents, but that could have an effect on, at that time we were, there's this thing called the salary cap, and if we didn't have a salary cap, we would get every player in the league that we possibly could. I know Tom would spend his money that way,
right?
But we had a certain amount of money, and it didn't change. It didn't matter who was representing the player. It wasn't going to change from agent to agent. And, it's my job as the general manager to try to stay involved in as many things as possible if it's going to make our team better.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we probably hang around the hoop in more deals than, I can't always say for what my counterparts are doing, but it seems like every deal that happens out there, we either know about it or we're involved in it. And that's the part that is important to Tom and to me to stay in touch. Doesn't mean so many deals we're not going to be able to do for various reasons, cap and everything else.
Sure.
But you try to stay involved in case you can make your team better and find a way to make it all work.
I got the sense there was urgency with Aho and his deal. A lot of people peg him as the next captain of the Carolina Hurricanes. I know there was a level of urgency with Jordan Staal to get his last contract, make him a Cane until he decides to retire. What's the urgency level, or where are you on, say, Brett Pesce, who has been tied to a lot of speculation as to what you're going to do this offseason, tied to bringing other guys in? Where does that stand?
Yeah, we had lots of talks in early July, probably through the 15th or 20th of July, and now they've gone, which these things always do. They go quiet for the next month of August. And,
right.
We get training camp after Labor Day and getting training camp. If there's a deal to be made there, it'll heat back up. But I've found through my history as a GM, it's hard to go early because players are looking at the cap. They see the cap going up next year. It goes up $4.5 million. Everybody wants that $4.5 million. I already took $1.5 million of it. I said it goes up $4.5 million, not for one player. It goes up 4.5 for 22 players. So, we've had at least discussions. Both him and Shea have expressed interest in staying here.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things we got Orlov and signed him to a 2-year deal because if everything fell apart and we couldn't keep one of them or both of them, we felt with Orlov and Slavin and Bernsey, and a couple of the other young guys, Chatfield, that we could continue on and not miss a beat. But saying that, we'd still like to bring both those guys, if we possibly can, back.
Is there any change? I mean, it's like you said, it's August. We haven't even started the season yet. You haven't even gotten a preseason yet. But let's say contract negotiations with Brett Pesce don't go anywhere, and he's just kind of playing things out. You have talked about this with us. Tom Dundon has talked about this with us as it relates to the trade deadline. You make your big moves now in the offseason. You're not necessarily looking to get too crazy at the trade deadline, mortgage the future, all that kind of stuff. With the way contracts seem to be going into this year and the cap and everything else, do you envision a change in philosophy depending on how the year goes?
I don't think so. And I think that's one of the reasons where we signed some of these defensemen right now, because at the deadline, you're always talking about adding depth defensemen, adding guys that can play in the league. And, it's right now, it doesn't cost us assets. It costs us cash.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if one or two guys end up in the minors for a short period of time or even a long period of time, it's a safety valve for us, and it costs us some cash. But I don't think our philosophy is ever really going to change on the trade deadline. I mean, again, if you're trading for players that you can extend or have time left, that's way different than just renting players for high picks and then hoping you can keep them afterwards.
Well, I'll save this interview for next year. We'll see where things go. No, I'm kidding. I am curious though. We joked about the defenseman. You don't have a minor league affiliate right now. So how is this? There seems to be some confusion. Even I'm a little bit confused how you're going to make this work without an AHL affiliate, because you even have 3 goalies, including Kochetkov, and they have to go somewhere and play. So how is that going to work out?
Yeah, we've got a couple of deals with NHL teams right now to put a few players here and there, and we're continuing to talk to teams. Obviously, some of these might not come down until we get into training camp, but you always have injuries. If not for us, but I mean other teams. I don't think it'll be a little bit of a tap dance for a while, but at the end, I think we'll be fine. We left some of our best prospects back in Europe this year, which they play in great leagues, and whether it's Sweden or Finland in the elite league, so their development won't hurt. It's not a great situation. We kind of didn't have a choice in this, so we got to make the best of it and try to plan what we're going to do for the following year. But at the end of the day, we'll find a place for all these guys by the time the season starts.
I was going to say for the following year, my guess is you don't want to do this 2 years in a row, right?
No.
Okay.
We want to be able to run it. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not ideal. We got forced into this decision.
Okay.
But it's not the best for development either. We want to have our own coach. We want to have our development guys. I mean, our development coaches will still be able to see the guys and talk to the guys. It's just, it's nice when they're in one place and they could spend, a few days there and see all the guys. Now there'll be a little more travel, but we'll make it work.
Okay, gotcha. Don Waddell, President, General Manager, Carolina Hurricanes. I saw the News and Observer snap a photo. I think it was Robert Willett who took a photo of you and Boo Corrigan, the athletics director at NC State, shaking hands when the Centennial Authority was all said and done and the thing got signed. There wasn't no sort of like tailgating quips or jokes that were made between, because I know this has been a thing with State fans. They're really worried about their parking spots, Don.
Yeah. No, Boo and I, first of all, the relationship with NC State's never been better, led by the Chancellor and Kevin Howell and Boo. Boo and I talk all the time. We're on the same page. We're not competition. We're here to help each other. And, there's a lot of things in this enhancement that is going to not only help the Hurricanes, but help NC State. Recruitment's become such a big thing in college sports, not just for their basketball team, even their football team, though. If you have a development here in property, it's going to be a nice attraction for players. So, no, the tailgating, people are getting all excited. It's going to be nice. It's going to be better. It's going to take a lot of time. I mean, we're talking about phase one. You're probably 3 to 5 years out at least. So, I wouldn't have people get too worried about it right now. We know how important it is. You talk about NC State tailgate, but we're worried about our tailgate too.
Yeah, tailgates, right.
We have lots of people come here early, come here on a weekend, 9 o'clock. They're out there roasting pigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's important to both organizations, and we're going to make sure we do the best job we can to make sure that everybody's taken care of, and they really appreciate the space that they're going to be able to tailgate in.
Don, we appreciate the time, and congrats.
Always a pleasure. Happy with you guys. Thank you.
Big thanks to Don Waddell for joining us here on the OG. Don, he surprised me with his Quebec comments. He's like, not a place I would want to go to in the first place, but yeah, it was never a thing. Good for Don. And I can tell that he's a little flustered by the AHL thing, where they're going to put their prospects right now. I know fans are kind of worried about that too. They seem to have something cooking here, so they'll play it out. I don't imagine them doing this again the following year. Just saying. Maybe Don needs some insurance on all these defensemen. He's worried about, that's why they have all these defensemen. He has insurance for the defensemen.
He's a smart man.
Very, very smart man.
All you have to do is go to theoginsurance.com. That's right. Theoginsurance.com. Matt Davis, State Farm. He can help you, your home, auto, your pets, you name it, your business. Matt is on the job. Give him a call. 919-779-8277. Matt Davis, State Farm there in Garner. Also, if you need some financial advice,
got you.
It's been very helpful to a certain person over here trying to start his own business.
So I'm also tying what we talked about earlier on the show about this clock and the old school logos. Who has a bunch of cool old school logos and they put them on really comfortable t-shirts?
Yeah, we actually need to send this to Home Field Apparel.
We do.
And have them make a shirt out of it.
That's
what we need.
They have to. You can buy shirts from Home Field. These are amazing college shirts, hoodies. They got sweatpants too. They got dad hats. They just got a new round of dad hats. They're dropping new stuff all the time. But for our purposes, they got a lot of great Big Four stuff. You can check them out, homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23 to get 15% off your order. Again, that's OG23 to get 15% off your first order at Home Field. Maybe we can work on this a design. I also want to get the drunk Mr. Wolf too on a t-shirt from home field, which is on the back of your laptop. But I don't know if NC State wants to be associated with that in the future.
Yeah, they have to sign off on that.
Yeah. State's going to have to sign off on that sort of thing. I mean, it is what it is. You mentioned it earlier. Did I want your BryceYoung preseason game number 1 hot takes? Because again, Brownlow was here filling in for you on Monday. What? It's the offensive line. It's not any more complicated than that, right? Oh no, you're making a face. Why?
No,
is it more than the offensive line?
I listened to the podcast.
All right,
and you guys are absolutely right. There's some issues up front. There's also some familiarity issues with the Jets, who they had just practiced against.
Jets have a really good defensive line.
They have a good defensive line. You're not going to show a bunch of stuff, which Frank Reich had mentioned. However, I've been very consistent in this point, and I would like to remain very consistent in this point. BryceYoung is not Patrick Mahomes. BryceYoung is not Lamar Jackson. BryceYoung is not even Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
He is not what we typically think of as the overall number 1 pick. I think his ceiling is that of being a good player. You will not win football games because of BryceYoung. That's a hard thing to say and concept to realize and come to grips with when you're picked 1-1. And when you're the Panthers and you took Cam Newton 1-1 and you won WON football games because of Cam Newton. I think BryceYoung is a quarterback who is capable of leading you to the playoffs. I don't think he's a quarterback capable of winning the Super Bowl.
Then why'd they move up to take him number 1?
Because they were desperate to get a quarterback.
You could have gotten Anthony Richardson. You could have done the scratch off. You could have done CJ Stroud.
They could have, but given where they were and the problems that they had earlier under Tepper and his own kind of fidgetiness and anxiousness to get a quarterback, they weren't going to wait. And once they hired Frank Reich, after all of the roulette that Frank went through with the Colts in his 5 years, what you have to understand with Young, he doesn't pop. He doesn't make Lamar Jackson plays. Okay. Next level thinker. I think his accuracy is also going to be off the charts.
Yeah.
I loved his poise in this game, but one thing he's going to have to realize, this is another thing I've been consistent about. It's a little bit like when you play tennis, right? When you go out and play tennis and you're volleying with, if you were able to volley with a better player than you, that's going to raise your level, right? But when you're out there playing tennis against someone who can't move and can't hit the ball, you go down to their level. BryceYoung played at Alabama. Talked about this with James Smith-Williams on the Law of the Wolf podcast. When you're at Alabama, you got 10 other pros around you. You are also dominant against the other teams that you're playing. Dominant. You are not playing the same game. Now you get to the NFL, as we saw with Urban Meyer, there's a little bit of that too. If we can mix all of my Giglio points here. Because when you get to the NFL, oh yeah, everybody's got one of those. All of a sudden you realize, hey, I don't have a distinct advantage over the other team. So what does he have to do? He's got to use his brain. He's got to work on that accuracy. Yes, the scheme is going to get more complicated and advanced for him to help him once the games become real. I'm not panicking over what he looked like or that didn't score points. What I'm saying to you, though, was pretty clear in that sample size. He will not be the reason you win football games. He will not pop the way that Lamar pops. He will not pop the way that a Patrick Mahomes pops. He does not have that physical tool set. If you'd like for me to whisper this part, or
how many Super Bowls does Lamar Jackson have?
But he pops and he wins games.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to get you a Super Bowl. I mean,
there's different ways to win the Super Bowl. I mean, Trent Dilfer won the Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, I'm not even going to put him on the Trent Dilfer way. I mean, what you're describing is what I would want in my quarterback: good decision making, getting the ball where you need it to be. And I'm pretty sure, as we've seen,
we have to see what those physical talents look like.
Well, that's why I'm not making too much of any sort of grand statements after one preseason game where Frank Reich even said, we showed you nothing.
Sure.
I'm disappointed in that the very vanilla way we ran things didn't produce anything, but we intentionally did not show you anything. And I thought the smartest thing he said at the end, after he took about 90 seconds to get there, was, yeah, man, I'm willing to take it on the chin a little bit in the preseason just to get some reps and get where we need to be and prepare for week one. So I'm going to push back on this idea that BryceYoung is not the kind of player that can win you a Super Bowl, because what you're describing are really incredibly talented players One of them has won a Super Bowl, and one of them is a guy that you've dismissed all the way up until this last Super Bowl. So,
Mahomes?
Yeah.
No, he had already won one. I'm saying I wanted to see him win one without Tyreek Hill. I think you're missing the point here. I'm not basing my opinion of BryceYoung isn't based on one preseason game. It's what I saw at Alabama.
Okay.
There's guys who make plays, and there's guys who make differences, and there's guys who win games.
But we saw that at Alabama from time to time. He wasn't asked to do it, but we saw it from time to time. I don't think so. All right. Okay.
I think he was in a situation that was really, and again, I've been completely consistent on BryceYoung.
I'm not.
Nick Saban never said one crossword about this kid. Never one.
Never did.
Which tells you so much about him.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is, like, he is what he is. I don't think he's magically going to turn into something that he's not. And I've said this all along, and I'll just explain it to you in the most simple of terms. And some people get confused when I use gender and race roles, but I'm just gonna give it to you. He has the traits. He has the typical traits of what we would consider to be a quote unquote white quarterback.
Yes.
He does not have the traits of what we would consider to be a quote unquote black quarterback.
We talked about it all the way through,
right? And I even
up to the draft.
I have said from day one that his comp is Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
That's his comp. So but to get to Drew Brees' level, remember when he played for the Chargers, he was good. Wasn't great.
Yeah.
So your point about Mahomes and winning Super Bowls, you got to get with the right coach. Is Frank Reich going to be the right coach? He could be.
Could be.
But I'm just saying to you, he is not a guy. He will not be the reason you win football games.
Was Drew Brees a guy who won football games?
A lot of times, no. Not at the end of his career.
At the end of his career, the guy's just starting his career.
At his height, sure. The height of his career. Not obviously. I'm not making a height,
which is fair too.
Joke
which is fair too when it comes to Drew Brees. I don't know.
Drew Brees has some dudes around him too. Don't forget.
Everybody needs dudes around him.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs
except
dudes
the Chiefs, apparently.
As they proved,
giving ones away.
As they proved,
Kelsey's
as they proved you wrong. You referenced Florida State. Quick transition from the NFL to college football. We'll get to the AP Top 25. Florida State's got expectations on it again. They're actually ranked in the top 10 for this upcoming season. They're not in the conversation like Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State. Georgia, the overall number 1. 3 people didn't vote for Georgia. They got an easy schedule. We'll get into that a little bit more with Steve Wiseman, who's an AP Top 25 voter. But Florida State's still very, very active on social media these days. And today's date is August 15th. We are recording today's show live to tape, August 15th. Why does that date resonate with me? What am I missing?
They have to notify the league that they're in, that they're leaving that league by that date.
I thought they were, though. I thought there was nothing holding them, Joe. This grant of rights, they're not sweating it. Okay, cool. So it's now August 15th, and they weren't informed that they were leaving last time I checked. So what's going on here? Are they doing it next year?
I got a question for you. If you could raise the money to get out of the grant of rights and the exit fee, why wouldn't you just apply that to your own program instead of giving it to a third party?
That's a really good question. I guess we don't understand the economics of college sports in the way that some galaxy
it's because there's going to be a $30 million gap every year because nothing's ever going to change about the construct of college football. Nothing has changed with the construct of college football over the last 2 years, and nothing will over the next 2. I got it.
A couple quick housekeeping items relating to conference realignment, conference expansion. Corey Clark, we've talked to Corey. I know you know Corey, old colleagues with Andrew Carter, now at the News and Observer, and they write for War Chant now, these old FSU beat writers. And I did a spit take when I saw this tweet today that instead of mocking Florida State for its bluster or criticizing the Noles for not being great for a few years, our Corey Clark explains why these other ACC schools should show some appreciation for Florida State and Clemson absolutely carrying the conference for decades. Right off the bat, I can tell you one key difference between Florida State and Clemson. Clemson got empowered through the Clemsoning label, won a couple national championships, stays relevant. Do you see them holding big, grandiose board of trustees meetings that are Zoomed and then given out like red meat to the fan base and then battle with other ACC people about how you need us or see you in our rear view mirror? Last time I checked, Clemson's not out there openly being antagonistic with its own conference. I haven't missed that, right? Graham Neff is not doing interviews where he's like, we're owed all this money. Give us the money. Did I miss that?
Not that it's been a couple minutes that I've looked online, but I don't think so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I didn't see that. Florida State, on the other hand, is the one having board of trustees meetings and their athletic director doing interviews saying, we're out of here, screw this conference, we are owed money. They're the ones doing that,
should
right?
be trying to do what's best for Florida State.
Of course, like everybody else.
We all agree on this, right?
No, just like Bubba Cunningham.
When did we ever say that Florida State shouldn't do what's best for Florida State?
Did Bubba Cunningham come on with us while he was riding around in his car?
Yeah.
And just, take a blowtorch to the conference? You know that they're making sure that North Carolina is in the best position for North Carolina.
Oh, absolutely. Behind the scenes, there are schools that are frustrated with the structure of the deal and the price of the deal and the length of the deal. There's no doubt about that.
So what people are kind of confusing here is, no. We get it. Just don't act like we don't get it. And also don't act like we can't point out that your whining is met with, well, here are your results. Or
also, try to understand, you're 44, I'm 48.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, Florida State, they were it.
Oh, they were breathing fire all the time.
Are you kidding?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I get into, what is your standard? You won 10 games last year. Congratulations. You're in the preseason top 10 this year. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. You've now reached state in Carolina's level. That's not your level. Your level is winning the thing and burning it to the ground, man.
Congratulations.
Come on.
Congratulations on that. One other expansion note as well. I think it was Chris Vanini at The Athletic basically took the ACC to task for not expanding. There was 4 no votes. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, NC State were the 4 no votes.
For not expanding. And I'm sitting here, no. Some people didn't watch War Games and it shows. Sometimes the best way to play is to not play. The best way to win is to not engage. Stay put. The granted rights is your strength and your weakness, but in this particular case, use it as a strength. Adding Cal and Stanford does nothing. And I'm also confused. If the ACC is doomed the way people make it out to be, what is Cal and Stanford adding to the ACC that's ultimately going to save them? That makes no sense. And if the ACC is doomed, if you care so much about Stanford and Cal, Oregon and Washington for that matter,
fair,
they weren't going to help State either. I mean,
they weren't going to help
ACC either.
They weren't going to help. But it's which way is it? Which way do you want this to go? If the ACC is doomed, then why are you saddling Cal and Stanford to a doomed conference? Shouldn't you if you care so much about them, maybe go somewhere else? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me the way people want to make it out, the way that people are portraying it. As I said on Twitter, it's very strange to me that you want Cal and Stanford to buy beachfront property in Rodanthe in 2023 when you know that thing's going to fall into the ocean. Why would you do that? So the ACC is either the place that's going to be saved and be around for a long time for these teams, or they're not. Which one is it? Or are you trying to position the ACC into a conference that really, I don't blame Florida State and Clemson for not wanting to be a part of it. Honestly.
Yeah.
If that's what you want.
Or getting a better piece. But Florida State needs to do more than just play the Monday night game and act like people are only watching Florida State.
Yeah.
That's currently my number one criticism of them. Mm-hmm. You played Notre Dame on Labor Day. Yeah, no duh, people watched. Come on. Where was the Jacksonville State game? Where was the Miami game?
Right. Joining us in the Eford studio, we've had all sorts of people in the studio today. It's
big day today. Very busy.
Very, very excited about this. Steve Wiseman, News and Observer. He's an AP voter. By choice?
Sure.
I feel like this is almost, look, everybody enjoys college football, but having known Giglio for a long time, who's been a long-time AP voter in the past, it's like a blessing and a curse to be an AP voter.
It is, as I wrote, particularly the preseason ballot.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Why not?
Because you're basing it on.
It's a guess.
Yes, I haven't seen all these teams in camp. I haven't been to spring practices. I've been to Duke's. Okay, I didn't put them in. Shocker, but no. I mean, so.
All right. So anyway, who was your number one?
Georgia.
So you were not one of the 3 voters who didn't vote Georgia.
I didn't give Kirby Smart any bulletin board material.
And you didn't give Nick Saban any bulletin board material. Okay.
I'm not. People win a lot of money betting on Nick, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lose thinking he's going to be pretty good. His team.
Well, is this the lowest the Nick Saban team has been preseason ranked?
Yes,
they're totally winning a national championship now.
I'm an extreme voter.
Rat poison.
Because I have him second instead of fourth. Yeah, I'm sure it's in. Nick has plenty of bulletin board material.
But you didn't give it to him.
Not me.
That's not what you're doing.
Me.
So I'm curious. how many ACC teams do you have ranked?
I have 3.
And I'm guessing what? Florida State, Clemson,
and Carolina came in at 25th.
Okay.
Do you
So
count Notre
barely.
Dame?
No,
15?
they could have been.
They're not, but they don't want to.
Another
Be.
conversation. They could have saved the league, but anyway, they don't want to do that.
No, I was told on my YouTube comments that Notre Dame has saved the ACC already in 2020. I don't think it worked that way. Notre Dame
the other way.
fans. It was the other way around.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had a season.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe do the ACC a favor. Regardless.
Anyway, they were in the poll too. Yes.
All right. What's the hardest part about being an AP voter?
So,
Is holding your nose and ranking the Big Ten teams who stink and
Like-
then are going to assault your email.
Iowa is in the top 25. I didn't vote for Iowa.
Okay.
Never
Nor
considered
should
voting
you.
for Iowa. But they made their 25th. Until they can prove they can score, 10 points a game, maybe then I'll put them in. But maybe that's I'm an Illinois native, so maybe that's the whole Midwestern
Maybe that's what
side.
it is.
burn. But anyway,
I was not prepared for that Iowa slander. I was not ready for that. So I think we see this a lot with college basketball, but I think football's really not all that different when it comes to the course of the season. The top 5, you can probably figure that one out. Top 10, okay, yeah, I can handle that one. Once you start getting to 15 through 25, things get really interesting, right?
that's where it gets tough because
Okay.
you can throw a blanket over 15 teams
Mhm.
between the 15 and 25, those last 10 spots. And it's a matter of then you really got to parse the resumes and look deep at, the analytics and PFF and stuff like that.
And there's also the philosophy of what you're doing with a preseason top 25. Some people view it as a projection. Some people might just view it what I think right now. Florida State and Clemson's a good example of this. You have Florida State ahead of Clemson, but you are of the belief that Clemson might actually finish better than Florida State.
That's correct. That's on my ballot for ACC. The poll we did
Mhm.
at Media Day, right? I have Clemson to win the league and Florida State second. I think in the long run, that's the way it's going to turn out.
Okay.
But right now,
In pads,
I think Florida State, what they did in the transfer portal in the offseason, the momentum they have. Clemson didn't end last year on a great note, right?
Mhm.
Got beat by South Carolina and Tennessee. Wasn't good. So anyway, that's a little bit. That's how the preseason poll works.
Well, I think Joe,
Were you required to put Ole Miss in there?
No.
well, all right. This is my curiosity. Because like David Hale wrote about this. He went on a tweet thread about this, and I know this with North Carolina, Mac Brown, where a lot of Carolina fans are already like, it's a trap that Carolina's in the top 25 because we know how the season will go.
Yeah.
But like Florida State has had a lot of. This is not the first time they've had preseason expectations, but they usually finish worse than what their AP top 25 preseason.
Always.
So when you're voting for that, do you care about historical reference, or you just, hey man, new year, new players, let's see if they got it this time?
I do my best to filter that out.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
but I mentioned like with Saban, like
Well,
he's a proven thing, right?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So but there are times when that factors in again, like that situation.
Okay.
But
This
no,
looks an awful lot like last year. It's safe for TCU at 24.
yeah. I mean, and again, they were top 5 last year,
Right.
but they're
Well,
not.
this is the problem with college football, though, isn't it? With a 4-team format.
In what
I'm
sense?
tired of Michigan. I'm already tired of Michigan.
So is the
They've
NCAA.
got the best running game, and
No, they do. They do. I get that. But their schedules, I really want nothing more than ECU to go up there and beat them. I want nothing more than that.
But then what will App State do for an identity? Although they'll settle
They
it on
play
the
them
field
next week.
That's right. That'll be for the right to claim
Claim the big house.
the big.
I hate their schedule. I hate Michigan's schedule every year.
Mhm.
And then they did compete against TCU in the semifinal, but they lost.
yeah,
Like, I just play somebody. They beat Ohio State last year. The last 2 years, they've beaten Ohio State.
Mhm.
So you're telling me this would be like this is the equivalent of if in basketball we said whoever wins the first Duke Carolina game gets to be in the Final Four. They don't have to play the rest of the year. They just get to be in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Like
that would be so wrong.
Alabama in the SEC West, at least you have to win a few games.
Sure.
Right? And the way that it's the way that Tennessee is trending, at least Georgia has a challenger in the East. And who knows what the crossover game, who they end up with. But South Carolina is starting to be a little bit frisky too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Big Ten schedule is so bad. It's so bad. And they're adding 2 teams from LA as if it's 1984 and Rodney Peete and Troy Aikman are the quarterbacks.
Who has an easier schedule, this or Georgia? I mean, I know it was a college football bubble bath with Dimitri, and he pointed out Georgia's schedule being just complete ease, that they're going to be back in the college football playoff, and they could win 3 titles in a row, back to back. It's entirely possible.
Tennessee, is back, right?
Now Bennett doesn't have any more eligibility left, right? He's now working the car dealerships.
He's with the Rams.
That's right.
It's like a really good preseason.
I forgot
game.
I forgot he actually showed up on the Rams. My bad. The car dealerships can wait. My bad. Apologies to Stetson Bennett. How dare I be? I didn't recognize your game.
We have a completely different conversation right now about college football, and so does my bank account. If the kid from Carolina can make a kick. I'm serious.
I know you're right.
Because Ohio State then wins the national championship, and we're having a completely different conversation. Instead, Georgia, after essentially losing the game to Ohio State, is given a get-out-of-jail-free card, and then goes and plays Tennessee in that. They play TCU in that championship game, and they played that game like they owed them money. Like they beat the absolute piss out of them. Like that was embarrassing for college football and for TCU. The way that game played out, but that's what Georgia is capable of doing.
Exactly.
But they were caught napping by Ohio State. But the kicker from Carolina, in an indoor facility, come on, man, make a kick. Talk to me, Goose. Work with me just a little bit.
All right, NC State. We'll close on this with the ACC schools. You've got Florida State, you got Clemson, you got Carolina. Was NC State the next ACC team up?
Yes.
Oh, no love for Pitt.
It would have been a little bit of Pitt, but yeah, they would have been.
EJ's going to email you.
I mean, here's he'll email. It's a shocker. Texas Tech, South Carolina to go outside the ACC were others in the mix there. But so NC State would have been in that group too.
Yeah, because I saw NC State only had 1 point, or others receiving votes. They only had
Same
1.
as Duke. Duke had a point.
Really? Now we talk about schedules, and I know that was the talking point coming out of ACC kickoff.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked about that because you cover Duke, that their schedule is that theoretically Duke can have a better season but have a worse record.
Absolutely.
Somebody from the Daily Progress gave Duke the 25.
Really?
Yeah. And State was the Bloomington Herald something.
Telephone.
There you go.
It's like, does Brennan Armstrong have any family up there? Or
potentially.
I mean, I don't know.
The rest of their ballot looks fairly normal.
Okay.
They have Carolina at 16.
Ooh, that's extreme.
South Carolina at 23. South Carolina is the one I feel like not getting kind of sort of the love.
Yeah.
Like this would be a year where I would vote for South Carolina over Carolina, predicting that South Carolina is going to win that football game.
Okay.
That's how I would do it. That way I don't have to hear, and then I could just say, well, you won the game, or if you win the game, I'll move you up, right? Those are the kind of situations that you also have to mitigate, like who you're going to hear the most from, and you got to pick who you want to fight with. I got no problem fighting with Michigan fans.
Well,
like some of these SEC teams, you better get armored guards for your house.
After all the Florida State stuff I've been dealing with, at this point, I'll deal with any other fan base.
They're mostly benign, though.
What, Florida State fans?
Yeah, come on.
Well, I do love
every insult was you're a clown. Like, okay,
clown,
we get it.
Clown.
We got it.
To me, the more insulting part wasn't being called a clown. It was acting as though college football is some sort of, existential galaxy brain take. Like, you just don't understand
economics.
You don't get it. No, we get it. We also get you don't have a place to go. And that's what we'll close on, Steve. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday during the football season.
Yes.
I got nothing to be mad at you about right now, so maybe we might need to work on that.
But that's the thing. We're going to find reasons to be mad with you.
Of course.
And I am curious if by Tuesday, if you could pull at least one email that you get from some
we'll get an email of the
fan.
week. Yeah, I'd like that.
I would love to
or a
get
tweet or something.
an angry email of the week from somebody who is just incensed
Look
that
at
you had
still
somebody
repping
ranked
the Herald
17.
Sun too in this. Wow.
Old school, baby.
Whoa.
I did hear from a Duke fan that why didn't you put him in the top 20? You know more about this team than anybody. Why didn't you?
Well, that should tell you then, right?
Exactly.
If you know more than anybody, the fact that you didn't vote him, well, that might say something, man. All right, Steve. Thanks, man.
All right.
Do you miss being a voter? Did you want to be a voter this year?
Yeah, I like voting. Football,
Okay.
I like voting. Basketball,
basketball's
it hurts my brain
complete,
too.
yeah.
Like I can't have a standard. I have a standard in football.
Do you have a standard for cards?
Absolutely.
Oak City has a standard for cards. Check them out downtown. Oak City Sports Cards. Weston wants to get your stuff graded. That's the key thing to all of this. Making sure that the card you have has value. And that's what Weston can do.
Only way to do it is get it graded. Go take it down to Oak City Sports Cards down off of Glenwood Avenue. Great space down there. You name it, Weston's got it. Just help me sell a 1928 World Series program.
Awesome. I love it. Absolutely love it. Also love it that we're saving money for people. Had a listener talk about how they moved over to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority, and they're going to be saving $150 a year thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. I said that would buy you a couple of t-shirts at breakingtea.com. Buy some OG merch, y'all.
Yeah.
With your saved money.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Word is bond with Hayes. There are no contracts with Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. Go check them out at bugsbite.com.
Joining us on the Easter Automotive Group Hotline in studio right now is Philip Isley. He is the chairman of the Centennial Authority. Phil, thank you for hanging out with us today.
Thank you. I love your place.
All right, yeah, it's very dorm-like. It takes you back in time, especially with some old NC State tchotchkes and whatnot.
Great stuff.
I actually want to start this conversation almost like a explain like I'm five segment. All right. What exactly do you do as chairman of the Centennial Authority?
So the Centennial Authority is a 21-person board. The authority was created by state legislation back in 1995. It was a smaller board then, but one of our current board members, Wendell Murphy, who's a big state guy, was a senator from Duplin County back then, and he wanted to create a taxing authority to allow for the construction of an arena that would be utilized for basketball.
Yeah.
So he got a bill passed in 1995. The authority was then created. I think it went from 7 members originally, then to maybe 9, but it's expanded to 21 now. So we are actually the owners of the PNC Arena. We sit on state of North Carolina property.
Yeah.
So we have a ground lease through 2096 for the arena. So it's ours. The original development rights that we got when we built the building always assumed that there would be something going on around the PNC Arena. Then it was called the Entertainment and Sports Arena. The owner of the Carolina Hurricanes has always had that right.
And Peter Carmanos, the original owner who brought the team here, never did anything with it.
He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't have the resources at the time. And, he just didn't have that desire. And there was, truthfully, not a whole lot out there anyway. We thought that was going to be like the next big thing in the city, especially when I was on the city council. I think we had probably 5 different projects that were at the corner of Wade and Edwards Mill that just never came to fruition.
Instead, my old high school's there now.
Right. And
shout out to Gibbons.
Which is very nice, by the way.
No, it's a lot better than
field, right?
Hey, it was a lot better than the campus I was on when I graduated in 1997. So,
but it's, we've wanted this type of development to occur. And now we have an owner in Tom Dundon who wants to do this.
Yeah.
And you look at what's happening on Edwards Mill right now with the bandwidth building, which is going to house ultimately 2,500 people. The Department of Health and Human Services is building a gargantuan campus at the intersection. It's on Blue Ridge Road. I don't remember the cross street, but it'll be a 11-story building, maybe 3-phase building project that'll have a ton of folks there. The activation along Blue Ridge is going to continue to get better and better as the state begins to sell off its assets that are being underutilized, 1-story textbook warehouses, some other emergency management stuff that can be relocated other places. But it's an exciting corridor to be on because there is so much state property.
Yeah.
And then you've got the UNC hospital, Rex Hospital right there too. So there's a lot happening there.
That's a lot to untangle though, because Dundon takes over in 2018. He actually wants to do something with that land, 80 acres that he's quote unquote entitled to. But 17, how many people that had to P's and Q's had to be checked here? 17 different stakeholders?
There are more than 17.
Okay.
So, but the main ones are the city and the county.
Okay.
Because they are our mom and dad. They provide us with the public funding allowance.
Okay.
So we always have to be nice to mom and dad. Otherwise, we don't get gas money or money to go to the movies and all the shows. So they're very, very important. In fact, the city is voting today on the $300 million recommendation that the manager of the county and the city recommended on Friday.
All right.
The county commission will vote on the Monday, the 21st. So that's really the spark that has ignited the other folks we have to talk to, which is the Department of Administration has to approve our ability to assign or sublease this land to someone like Tom Dundon or developer. The legislature at this time is not necessarily involved from any funding or capacity of that sort, but they're still important because they're the North Carolina General Assembly.
Sure.
And they can be helpful or they can be hurtful.
Do they have a budget yet?
No,
I can't keep track anymore.
It's always there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough. But Dundon clearly wants this, has been wanting it. But I kind of want to go back to that. And you've been with the board since 2011. And you've seen all the iterations that go along with it and also the changing needs of the area. What was Gary Bettman's message in May of 2022? Because I feel like that really got things moving for real again.
So there were two messages that we received around that era. I was not the chairman at the time in sort of the summertime of 21, but the mayor of Raleigh, Marianne Baldwin, basically had a meeting with folks and said, get off your, cuckoo, your fanny, and get something done. So she really sort of started the process of us thinking harder about this. I became chairman in December. Bettman came before the playoff. I think it was the first playoff game in Raleigh, and said, look, your building's fine and everything, but it ain't up to snuff. Yeah. You got to get going. You've got an owner that has certain rights that he can exit at some point in time. And, you need to pay attention. And I think in our defense, we started paying attention shortly after I was elected. We started engaging in sort of what do these conversations look like? What do we need to do? We knew, as of today, on September the 1st of 2023, Mr. Dundon can give us a letter and say, I'm out of here.
Sure.
And having that deadline really was helpful, honestly. As much as it stunk that, we're working against a deadline. Deadlines sometimes are really good for getting the deal done.
Yeah, that's how I work.
It worked out really well. And, NC State was a big part of this too. They're our co-tenant. And, the building was built initially for them. And
but it's not just about basketball either. And I guess that gets to Giglio's not here as this conversation, but I know I have a note here that Giglio would absolutely ask about tailgating in the parking spots and what is real, what is fiction. You can get on social media, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, because there's a very vocal group of people who think this is terrible for the culture of NC State football specifically. And yet I talk to you and it's like, it's not what you think it is. So what is real and what is not real about parking at PNC Arena and Carter Finley Stadium with this new lease agreement?
Well, as I learned today and heard in our earlier press conference, there are 14,000 parking spaces for football games with everything. We have 4,100 spaces on our side. The rest are on NC State Stadium side or the State Fair grounds or other satellite areas. We have intentionally, any development that occurs out there is going to be phased in over 20 years.
Okay.
NC State is going to know when things are moving. We're hopeful that the development will occur in other areas of the arena, but we're still working through what that's going to look like. Some of the cool things that owners agree to do is dedicate 5 acres that will never have any development on it whatsoever, and it'll be programmed for a dedicated tailgating spot.
That makes sense.
Either Ole Miss style, which was where I went to law school. I've seen that. I know what that feels like.
You're talking about the Grove.
Correct. It's incredible. And, so everyone's space just doesn't go away. It's going to take time. I think the 23 season is going to be fine. I think the 24 season is going to be fine. The hysteria around this, I get it. The fans are passionate. I'm a State fan. I understand. I've also had my tailgating spot moved 3 times since I've been a season ticket holder.
Okay.
It's okay. You have to, it's weird how you choose parking now, but I manage. I'm also turning 56 on Sunday. I think in 20 years, I'm going to be tired of tailgating and I might want to pull into a hotel or a restaurant and have a different experience, or the sports book.
I was going to say, pour one out for the old TX lot now that I'm thinking about it.
Everybody says that. Right?
That's all part. That's where I tailgated back in the day. So I guess that's the part that you're referencing is, I'm kind of in the same boat too. I'm not a season ticket holder at any place. I'll just kind of dabble and go to games. And what I've noticed at Carolina, what I've noticed at Duke is that they've done really good jobs with what is called activation. All right. And State has its own activation because the tailgating culture is taken over. Now, I will maintain that tailgating culture at NC State is a relatively new thing. We're talking about 20 years old or so, because it didn't exist when I was at NC State from 97 to 01. It really got going once Chuck Amato became the head coach and Phillip Rivers was doing his thing. And, basketball was kind of in a weird spot and people gravitated towards football. But I look at these activations and I think to myself, as an older person with kids that doesn't have all day, I would spend more time at events like this, like you would at UNC or what you would do at Duke. So I feel like this is a good thing, especially when you want to make the area a 365-day-a-year place to hang out. More shows, more things to do, more restaurants in an area of Raleigh that is so underutilized as more and more people coming to the area. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
Well, the thing that it's going to do is going to transform the area.
Yeah.
And I still think that football and tailgating is going to be just fine. You're going to want to go there before a game. You're going to want to go there, stay there after a game. And it's going to help with traffic issues. There's really no downside to it other than getting used to something you're not currently used to.
Fair.
And that happens all the time in Raleigh. Anyone who's lived here the last 30 years has suffered through that. I think it's a good thing. You know, where I'm from, my town's dying. I was a growth guy when I was on the city council. And to me, I said this today in the press conference, I think this is the greatest thing to happen to West Raleigh since NC State decided to locate a university there in the 1880s. It's going to really change that whole area for the better of everyone who uses that facility. And it's not just NC State. It's not just Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, you know, my wife and daughter went to the Lizzo concert. There's 6 very diverse concerts in September.
Yes.
I mean, you know, our Tom Dunn, if one thing he's done really, really well is he's explored how we need more great concerts, and he has delivered like a man. I mean,
and that's part of the deal that seems to be lost in all this. We're caught up on restaurants, places to hang out, hotels, office space, etc. I know there's basically lower income housing that's tied into this, which is a good thing.
Workforce housing.
Thank you. So I am curious about the concert venue because there seems to be some confusion that Red Hat was always temporary and people forgot that it was temporary because they've done such a great job bringing talent there.
Right.
You get used to going to shows there and all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, it's already a good spot. It was always temporary. So where does the relocation of Red Hat tie into this indoor facility that is going to be attached to this renovation to PNC Arena?
Well, we think that they can coexist.
Okay.
Tom,
so they're not, these are separate things.
They are separate things.
Okay. Got it.
And what will be out on our site will be a covered indoor facility. And I learned today, I heard when Waddell was talking that it could be more community activation too.
Sure.
Don't know what that means, but it could also be
beer festival. It could be beer festivals. It could be esports tournaments. It could be all sorts of stuff that's just too small for the arena itself.
Is a really big deal right now. We're having huge ones at the arena at the moment. But you know, Live Nation programs, the city of Raleigh. I think Live Nation has a relationship with Dundon too. Don said today that we are confident that these can coexist in the same space because we turned down so many shows. and Red Hat is the same way. I mean, you know, the summer is just the summer.
I know. Well, Walnut Creek had like 5 shows in a row the other day.
I think Red Hat had 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah. I think they had one show last, as of this recording, I think it was a couple of turn of the century emo punk bands, tonight's Queens of the Stone Age. And then they have some more shows. I saw
Childers Sunday night.
Oh, so you got the tickets?
I did.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
It was hot,
dude. I was looking for secondary market tickets for Childers.
It was insane.
It was like $300.
Mine, I think we were fairly close, but I could have sold mine for about $550. So I was glad that I got them when I got them.
I saw Childers open up for Sturgill right before the pandemic in Asheville. This is before blown up.
Man.
So what was wild? I knew this guy was going to be the next big thing because the people who had showed up for Childers left before Sturgill Simpson got on stage. I'm like, where all these people go? Sturgill's about to melt your face. Right. What are you guys missing here? No, they were there for Childers. I went, okay, that guy's the next big thing. Sure enough, here he is. So I'm jealous you went to that show. All right, let's talk timelines. Let's circle back to what you said at the beginning and how things are going to look in the next year, 2 years, et cetera. We're not getting Fenton 2.0. We're not getting North Hills 2.0 in the next 3 years. So what is step 1 for this process?
So the first phase, he has 20 acres he can develop.
Okay.
And there are certain milestones that he has to do in order for him to get to phase 2. He has to put at least $200 million into the development. He has to have 150,000 office footage or commercial use, 100,000 food and beverage, restaurants, bars, whatever. He has to have a 150 room hotel and 200 residential units, 10% of which must be workforce housing. And for a family of 4 in Wake County AMI, 80% is about $91,000 a year.
Okay.
And that was a big deal for the city and the county to get their funding level where it was. Everybody's talking about the lack of affordability here. This is ideally located for anyone who works at Bandwidth or HHS or Rex Hospital, that you can actually use existing pedestrian paths, greenways, bike lanes. I mean, it's there. You really can actually walk to work in a location that 5 years ago you would say you'd be crazy to think that you could do that. And so the workforce housing component is important, and that's throughout the entire project. So over the 4-5 year term, so 20 years, any residential component that goes in that site must have 10% workforce housing component, which we think is really cool. And to Tom's credit, he agreed very quickly to say that's a great thing. I want, folks living there that, cops, teachers, firefighters, et cetera. But every phase is conditioned upon him being successful and hitting those milestones. Then he gets to phase 2, which is another 20 acres.
Yeah.
He has 5 years to complete, $200 million, and you go down to phase 3, phase 4. The one difference is in phase 3, at the completion of phase 3, it'll be 2039. We're going to take a look at the building to see where it is in its lifetime. When his 20-year lease ends, the building will be 45 years old.
Yeah.
So at age 40, we're going to say, hey, is this still a competitive building for the NHL? Is it competitive for the NCAA? If not, we have options.
Okay.
We are going to either try to build a new one, which at that point in time will probably be $1.something billion, where we can make renovations to it like we're doing now, or we can do nothing. And that's a complete Centennial Authority call.
Okay.
We have the life of that building is in our hands. If we decided to do nothing, he would have the chance to say, okay, I'm going to leave early. I'm leaving at my lease term. He could try to relocate.
That's a long time from now, though.
It's a long time from now. I will not be chairman. I hope I'm still able to go to games.
I don't even know if podcasts will still be a thing by then. We might just be doing holographic shows, right into your retinas. I have no idea.
Yeah, in your glasses. Right.
Exactly.
Just beam down into our
into your
portal,
consciousness.
right?
Yes. I mean, I have no idea.
Elon Musk will have something like that.
All right. So this basically things are, as I joked with Don Waddell earlier, the president and general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes, are you going to miss the relocation conversation when Montreal comes to town every time?
I will say this. There was never a threat to me of relocation.
Okay.
I mean, that's God's honest truth. We had it built into the lease. Again, this one date, September 1, 2023, he could say, I'm out of here. I believe that we made the best lease we could possibly make to keep, this extra 5 years. And that was reasonable at the time, given where everybody was. We're in the middle of COVID when we executed the Dern lease, the extension. I mean, we had no idea what the world was going to look like, 2 or 3 years later, but that gave us the breathing space that we need to create this deal, which I think everybody in the community wins. I think NC State wins. I think the Hurricanes win. I think anybody that goes to games wins, or the monster truck rally, or Disney on Ice.
Oh man.
It's,
I haven't seen Monster Mutt in a really long time.
The rodeo, we're going to start hosting a bunch of rodeos.
We'll close on this. I know that Tom Dundon, in our conversations with him, wants another outdoor game. And I know part of this term, this new lease, is to get one here sooner than later. I mean, obviously it's not going to happen next year or the next 2 years, but within 5 or so. I think that was the idea. But he wasn't all that keen on an all-star game last time we talked to him. But an all-star game is tied as an incentive to the completion of these renovations. So was that something that the Canes wanted? Is that something that the city viewed as yet another good economic driver? Because I remember the All-Star game here, in 2011?
Right.
Was it 20? Yeah, it was 2011. Because it was the year Jacob was born. So, I thought it was a great time, and downtown Raleigh is vastly different now than where it was back in 2011. So what was the driver on the All-Star game?
Well, the All-Star game is conditioned upon the enhancement project being completed.
Okay.
So I think it says 3 years.
I think it's within 3 years of the completion.
So let's just say 6 or 7 years.
I had my in-house lawyer look at the term sheet. So
right. Yeah. It's good. For free, I hope.
Yes, of course.
The Stadium Series, however, is very different.
Okay.
That's within 5 years. And that's best efforts. I mean, I talked to Tom Dundon the Monday after the game, and it was a really cool conversation. And this is before we knew what the numbers were, what the economic impact was. And I had just finished watching my video recording of it to see that the media coverage was spectacular.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He definitely wants more. We put that in there because we know the benefit. Now, the city didn't mandate it. The county didn't mandate it, but we know the economic benefit. And we thought that was also great for our community. We got word from Mr. Bettman while in Iceland that both are very doable.
Okay.
So
love it. Absolutely love
it's
that.
really cool.
Bring Jeff Skinner back.
Right. Look,
Have him drop that first puck. I have no idea.
There's there's so much good out there. NC State wins in this too. I mean, I will talk to anybody about this at any time, but they really do win on this. It's going to be great. They'll be the only school in the ACC that has this type of activation around their stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And in the world of what we are dealing with in college sports today, you just
kind of important.
It is kind of important.
It's kind of important where things are headed.
So,
well, appreciate your time.
Thank you,
as
man.
always, and congratulations.
Thank
I know
you.
this has been this plane you've been trying to land for a while now, and it finally happened. So now we can move forward with improving the area. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Joe.
Big thanks to Philip Isley for hanging out with us here on Ovies and Giglio. I tried to do fact fiction with him, man, because there's a lot of people who just think it's going to go one way, but it's not going to really be the case. Tailgating is not going to go away. This is great for everybody, including NC State.
It's a win for
modernize.
everyone.
It really is.
Okay.
I'm hype about this. It's a win for everybody, man. It's a win for everybody. Kind of like it was a win for everybody in my OG mixtape while you were gone.
Wow.
We're gonna do a mixtape here in a second, but Joe's not happy with me.
Wow.
Joe's not happy with me.
I thought for sure if when I heard the words, if you just tell me the artist, in all fairness, I thought it was going to be Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah.
And then when I heard the lyrics, I was like, yeah, it could be, maybe. And then when it was Taylor Swift, I'm like, wait a second. You just gave someone the tumbler for guessing the most popular artist in the world right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe.
What?
Good work.
What?
Then I'm like, was it a family member? Was it somebody good?
No,
Like,
I just knew nobody was going to get Cruel Summer. So I'm like, hey, why not? Just give me the artist. And here we are. And I knew you get mad because you're super stingy about these breeze through mugs.
Hey, you gotta be, man.
I got it. You can go get one yourself if you want. They're $20, lifetime refills at Breeze Through, coffee, sodas, all that fun stuff. Drop by any Breeze Through location to get yours.
Yeah, just to correct Philip Isley real quick. There's not just a gas station over by the arena. Okay, there's a Breeze Through.
It's a Breeze Through, baby.
Over by the arena. Get your coffee, get your drinks, get all of your hydration needs over at Breeze Through right there on Edwards Mill Road.
Also, shouts to Butcher's Market. One of the more amusing things that's happened since we've been doing this podcast and we've been talking about Butcher's Market. It's almost like people didn't believe us that we go and we get stuff there and we think it's delicious.
I feel like there's going to be a chapter in Malcolm Gladwell's next book about how great in advertising we are with the Butcher's Market. Unbelievable American success story.
All thanks to our little podcast. Go check out Butcher's Market. They got locations across the triangle. Yeah, they got the meats covered.
They're also in Wilmington. Don't forget they're in Wilmington. And now in Wilmington, they're making those steak and cheese sandwiches that we swear by. And everyone who has one says, oh my goodness, you were right. So in Wilmington, Butcher's Market, go check them out and get the steak and cheese.
We have Patrick in studio to play the mixtape. So you like our dorm vibe, right?
It's sweet, man. I really do like it. It's good aesthetic.
When do we get the loft? Are we taking a loft from ECU?
Yeah, we need one. Okay.
Where'd you go to school?
UNTW.
Okay. Seahawks, let's
And
go.
you graduated?
Yeah, I know. In
How?
4
They
years.
exist.
No.
Yeah, wild.
It's a real thing.
That's where I should have went to school, but I know I never would have graduated.
It's
What,
a
at
miracle,
UNC
I
Dub?
think. But yeah.
No, if I went to UNC Dub, I would have been like, I was already pushing 235 when I graduated from NC State. I would have been 250 easily at UNCW.
Just chilling on the beach,
I don't
drinking
know.
a
Chilling on the
PBR.
beach, drinking beer, and the cookout, like literally right there off of campus. Forget it.
It's so hot there, you would sweat it out there.
Fair point.
That's the
Fair
thing.
point. All right, so this is how it's going to work. We have Wade Minter, PA announcer for the Carolina
Oh, man.
Hurricanes, and he's going to read a lyric.
Okay.
And you are going to have to tell us what song that is. Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
We were at the beach. Everybody had matching towels. Somebody went under a dock, and there they saw a rock. It wasn't a rock.
It was.
I'm stumped.
I don't know this one either.
Yeah.
We were at the beach. Everybody had matching towels.
Yeah.
Somebody went under a dock, and there they saw a rock. It wasn't a rock.
It was a rock lobster. Ding, 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 ding. What?
No.
No, man.
Mm-mm.
That was a deep cut.
I knew it was some sort of funky song
Mm-hmm.
based on that, but yes, no.
Patrick, I'm sorry.
It is what
You
it
came
is.
all this way.
We have consolations.
But
for
we have
Bryce.
consolation pride. We got you a color changing cup.
Yep.
We got you some stickers. I don't know. We might even let you get into the secret stash. We shall see. Thanks for coming in, man.
Hey, it's been a pleasure.
See? I didn't just ask for artists there. Didn't ask for
It was better.
nobody said B-52s.
That was hard though. I mean,
Rock
come
Lobster?
on.
Yeah, Rock Lobster was
Come
hard.
on.
Rock Lobster was hard. That's one of my favorite songs, though.
Right.
The extended
that's definitely
version.
one. That's definitely one where if you heard it, you'd be like, "Oh, that Rock Lobster." But when the lyrics, no.
And don't let Duke get in the way of that, because I know they play Rock Lobster at Cameron Indoor. The actual the album version, where all of a sudden they go into this weird guitar jam freak out and they're making all sorts of weird marine animal noises, put it in my veins. Absolutely love that song. Absolutely love it. All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe questions. Thanks to Oakwood Pizza Box. Check them out online at oakwoodpizzabox.com. Better yet, drop on by. They have a fantastic spot in downtown Raleigh, and you can get the square.
Got to get the square.
Gotta
Someone
get the
tweeted
square.
to us the square special.
It's the best.
Good stuff.
Absolutely the best. All right, let's go to Bennett. Hey, Joe, reading the PNC Arena stuff and seeing that they want a concert venue had me wondering, is this Dundon, Tom Dundon, the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, showing Stephen Malik, the owner of NCFC, what real money is? Seemed his group had proposed something similar for his failed stadium. Yeah, look, I think you've heard me say this a bunch. There's differences between millionaires and billionaires, and there are differences between little b billionaires and capital B billionaires. There's a difference between Tom Dundon and David Tepper.
But I don't think he was taking it personal. There's just no new ideas.
No.
And so, yeah, if you could create some sort of district that would attract concerts as well. I mean, that's the thing.
But this is also something that Dundon wanted to do when he bought the team back in 18. Yeah. And I think Fenton probably took some air out of the sails there in Cary, but there's no reason why Dundon can't do a higher level version or a more luxurious version of what the Fenton and what North Hills is trying to be and everything else. There's room for this stuff. It's completely different usage of that area as well. But there are differences between how millionaires, billionaires, and big B billionaires go about this stuff. And a little bit of credit to Tom Dundon, because can you imagine David Tepper trying to work this stuff?
No. Yes, I can. He'd sign a contract and then back out with
team might be moved somewhere else at this point. From Maxwell, Lamestream Media.
Oh,
I love that. Lamestream Media is pushing the narrative that Clemson State, UNC, FSU are dooming the conference by preventing expansion, weakening the product. If that were the case, why would football-heavy schools like Notre Dame, Miami, Virginia Tech not align with the quote-unquote Proud Four? I think some of those teams are malleable. Honestly, I think they're malleable. I know where Clemson and Florida State are coming from, and I know you and I are on the same page when it comes to North Carolina, that in terms of the brands, news for Florida State and Clemson, it's North Carolina that would actually be more desirable to the SEC in the Big Ten than Florida State. State's the interesting one, but I do think there is a conversation to be had about the relationship between Boo Corrigan, the NC State AD, and Bubba Cunningham.
Well, don't forget, it's not just the
UNC
ADs, it's the chancellors.
And the chancellors, and
Randy
what those
Woodson
two
and
schools
Kevin
are about.
Guskowitz. It's interesting to me that Duke was not part of that alliance. That was the most notable thing for me. Forever, Duke and Carolina were on the same page.
Mhm.
Forever.
Yes.
Does not appear to be the case here.
Might not be the case. And we'll get out of here on this from Unit 2437. Riders on the Storm kicking at the teeter this morning. Yo, that's an existential grocery store banger right there. I don't know if that's the weirdest grocery store banger I would have heard. Somebody pointed out they heard
Saying too
Grateful
old?
Dead. No, I'm just saying, like, when you go into the grocery store, you don't want to be thinking about like deep things, man. Maybe a love song, maybe a dance song. Like if I heard, for instance, if I was shopping and I heard
Ovies be shopping.
Yeah. If I heard Against All Odds by Phil Collins.
Oh, yeah. Maybe get some tissues.
Yeah. Wear the Kleenex.
Yeah.
Like I'd be devastated hearing that track.
Trying to sell some wine, maybe.
Something like that. Something like that. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for today's edition. We will see you Thursday.